have a ponytail up there for you to hang on to today. Hey y'all, how are you guys doing? Today's video is all about Zeppelin. I asked you guys a bunch of questions on Instagram, and you guys asked your questions about this little guy. And if you don't follow me on my animal channel and my main channel, I mean Instagram, then what are you doing with your lives? I post a lot of stuff about my other animals too, and this little guy, he loves to come out, so he is kind of the star of the show. I posted today about my bearded dragons and all that good stuff. Are you, it's like judging me, like why are you talking about the other animals? Like this video is, I was told this video was all about me, and that's why I'm here. Don't make me walk off this set. You guys asked a bunch of questions, so if a lot of your questions are actually gonna be answered in this video, but if they are not in what I plan to talk about, I will answer them at the end. Let's just jump right into it. Panther chameleons are one of the most colorful species of chameleons. There are many different kinds of chameleons. There are Parsons chameleons, there are veiled chameleons, there are Jackson chameleons. I was originally drawn to Panther chameleons because of their beautiful color. He's a little darker today, but if you guys follow me on my Instagram channel and you've seen him in other videos, he's usually very, very bright. They do change their color a lot. Panther chameleons come from the northeastern area of Madagascar. So they live in the rainforest. They're used to very humid, very humid environment. They are arboreal, so they like to spend a lot of their time in the trees. You'll never see a chameleon like walking around the ground, except for this one. He likes to climb up the stairs, don't you? And they live in captivity for about 5 to 7 years. Obviously, that really depends on their husbandry. A lot of chameleons, sadly, don't get the care that they deserve or need, and they die because their owners don't really know anything about them. Or they listen to a pet store employee, and that's actually what I did in the past, and both of my chameleons died. So I will let you guys know about that story because I don't want anyone to make those mistakes that I made. I should have done more research. I was really young, and I didn't even think to like go pick up a book about a panther chameleon. I was just young, and I thought that people that worked at pet stores knew what they were talking about. You would assume, right? Well, you can't assume. A lot of people at pet stores don't know what they're talking about, and you need to do your own research and compare and contrast your sources, because many sources on the internet and in books even will give you completely conflicting information. And so you just have to do your best to read books, talk to your vet, and kind of Venn diagram that shit and just make sure you're doing the best that you can do. Amylobies, I believe, I could be totally butchering that, but that is the locale that this little guy is, and it's basically the region in Madagascar that they come from. They are kind of the most common and very, very colorful. And I know there are chameleons that are more expensive than panther chameleons. I purchased him from a breeder almost a year ago. He was born on January 14th, 2017. You've never been in this room, have you? You're like, where am I? So what drew me, other than the beautiful color, to panther chameleons is their temperature. I mean their temperament. They're typically pretty docile out of the chameleons. He was actually quite grumpy when I originally got him, and I almost took him back to the breeder because I was like, I don't know if I can handle a grumpy chameleon. He tries to attack me when I put my hand in there. I don't know. But I had a feeling about Zeppelin, and we stuck with it, and now look at him. I pulled him out the other night when I had a couple people over, and he just loves coming out and loves crawling on everybody. But you're not always gonna get that lucky. Not all chameleons are like that. A lot of chameleons don't want you to touch them at all, and they want to be left alone. And a lot of people will tell you, even at pet stores, they're not to be handled daily. It can stress them out, etc. I handle Zeppelin pretty much on the daily. He charges at my head anytime I open his enclosure. He wants to come out, he wants to explore, he wants to hang out in his tree. He's not stressed out in the least right now. He's just like enjoying himself. The loud talking is probably not his favorite. Common misconception with chameleons is that they will change, like just at the drop of a dime, depending on their surroundings. That's not always the case. I do believe it to be true a portion of the time. Like for instance, see how dark he is right now, and my shirt is really dark. So, and usually he's a lot brighter. So I do think it does have something to do with it, but sources will tell you that has nothing to do with it. Sources will tell you that it's all to do with it, but it is a lot to do with the temperature they're in. their surroundings as far as like how stressed out they are and like their mood. Like for instance, if you take a chameleon, a panther chameleon in the sun, they will completely turn black. And that is because they are trying to absorb the sun. So it's kind of interesting. They don't always, like if you put him on some kind of colored thing, he's not gonna just immediately turn that color. That's not really how it works. They are really amazing. The crazy thing about them is they do not have the ability to turn purple at all. No chameleon has the ability to turn purple. You will never see a chameleon turn purple. I thought that was like really crazy. I was like, none of them can turn purple? I guess it's not that weird because I've never seen a purple chameleon, so makes sense. The males will get, excluding their tail, around 12 to 18 inches, and females will get about 10 to 14 inches. So the females are a bit smaller, and the reason I got a male is because the females are pretty much the color of my bedspread. They stay a mauve pink shade, and you can see some of the marks on their sides and stuff. But they don't get colorful like the males, just like with male ducks, etc. They always get all the color and the females just look kind of bland. They're still cute, but I wanted a male because I wanted some really, really beautiful colors, and he's not really doing his best showing you how beautiful his colors are today. You're very, very dark. Is it my shirt? Let's do a test. I'm gonna put on a different colored shirt and let's see what happens. Okay, and just like that, he's already so much brighter. I'd put him on my bed and he became a lot brighter already since he was like 2 seconds ago. I do feel that it's a mixture of things, but it's not solely based on the shade of something that they are near. Definitely has to do more so with the mood and their temperature and all that good stuff. Huh. Now I'm gonna go into more about their husbandry and their eating and their humidity and basically how to keep a chameleon. When they are small, and a lot of websites say small, they don't tell you how many months, so it's left for interpretation. So I would say that he's like kind of a teenager right now. I wouldn't consider him small anymore. Like I said, he was born last January. So he's not quite an adult. Adults reach adulthood when they're about 12 to 14 months. So he's not an adult yet, and he's also got a lot of growing to still do. So they'll tell you that a baby chameleon should be kept in a smaller cage, typically a screen cage, because they need the ventilation. That's another mistake I made with my chameleons, which I'll go into in a moment. So a screen cage, like 16 by 16 by 20 inches tall. You don't wanna go any bigger than that for a baby because they can have a hard time finding their food, which is another reason why keeping a plain bottom and not putting any substrate for a baby is a good idea. Some people do that the whole chameleon's life. I choose not to, but for a baby, it just gives less places for bugs to hide, and they can find them easier and hunt easier. And they won't die of starvation. If you have a big old giant cage for a tiny baby chameleon that is like the size of your pinky, well, you shouldn't get it quite that small, but the size of like this finger or something, they could have a lot of trouble finding their food. Once they get bigger, about this size, they suggest, let's see, I wrote it down here. I don't necessarily follow this. I got a way bigger cage for him. 18 wide by 36 tall. I think I got him, his is even bigger than that. I just upgraded his cage. And when we move, I'm actually getting him a custom built cage with like a water background and stuff like that. But I got this one for the time being, and I'm still adding to it right now. So it's not completely finished, but I'll show you guys what it looks like. This is the type of cage you wanna have. You wanna be able to have enough height because they are arboreal, they like to climb, and you wanna have enough foliage so that they feel comfortable and confident hiding in the leaves. They definitely need places to hide. So that's super, super important. Don't forget that. You can get a lot of fake vines and branches and things like that to go in there. I'll link a site that I got a bunch of grapevine like burls from or whatever, like the wood. It's so freaking awesome. Like if you go to a pet store, they're so expensive. So smaller chameleons require different heating than an adult chameleon. They need an ambient temperature of 75, and their basking area should be between 85 to 90. You don't wanna go higher than that for a baby chameleon. So I'm actually in the process of making his even hotter now that he's a lot bigger, because for adult chameleons, you want their basking temperature to be around 100 degrees. So I'm gonna get him a new light bulb. Actually, I just went out there and measured everything today, like the heat and whatnot. An adult's ambient temperature should be between 75 to 85. And what I mean by ambient is like lower in the cage. Chameleons thermoregulate. They will bask, and then when they know that they need to like bring down their body temp, they will climb down into a lower part in the cage to get that 75 to 85 ambient temperature, which is something that they need to be able to do. So with that being said, you have to have things for them to climb on at all heights in the cage so that they can thermoregulate properly. This little guy likes to climb on the screen a ton, which absolutely drives me crazy because he actually ripped out one of his toenails doing this. I didn't see it happen, but I came back in and he just loves to climb on the screen, and sometimes they're just gonna do it. He had plenty of climbing space and he just did it anyway. Like I said, he's like an ornery like 2-year-old that just does whatever the heck he wants. In addition to a basking area and heat, by the way, at night I turn off, I live in Southern California, so it doesn't get too cold here. If it did, I would have a night bulb for him. But you wanna crawl on my head? Yeah? No, you just tried to bite me? That's not very nice. You wanna go on there? So it doesn't get too hot or too cold here at night, so I don't like have anything on for him at night. The breeder told me that I absolutely don't need anything. If it dropped below like 65 degrees, I would probably put something in there, but it doesn't. But another light that you're gonna need for them, and you're gonna need a timer. I use a timer. There's Repticen timers that you can set for all of the lighting so that, like for example, at 7 a.m., everything will turn on and turn off at 7 p.m., whatever. He's like so annoyed right now. Am I talking too loud? I'm sorry. So you're also gonna need a UVB source. This is also really good if you're gonna have live plants in there, which I do. There's a list of plants that I'll put down below in the description box that are okay for chameleons. I use a Feliner. There's one of those, it's like an umbrella tree. It's inside his enclosure and it works really well for him. Where are you going? What? He will just walk off stuff. Like, you have to watch this guy. I also recommend feeding your chameleon in the mornings so that they have the entire day with the UVB light. It helps them digest their food and absorb the nutrients. You don't wanna feed them right before that light's about to go off and then they don't have access to that UVB exposure. So one of the hard things with chameleons is, I would say, watering them and keeping their humidity where it needs to be. Their humidity needs to be between 60 to 70%, which is a little bit difficult, especially if you live in a super arid climate and because they're in a screen cage. I recommend, and by recommend I mean you have to, mist them about 2 to 3 times a day. You can get an automatic mister. It does really soak the cage though, and I haven't had the best luck with it. You can also use a dripper for them to drink. One of the things about chameleons is people make the mistake of thinking that they drink from a water cup. Like if you put a water bowl at the bottom of the cage or anywhere in the cage, that they're gonna find it, go over to it and drink it. In the wild, they drink the dew off of leaves and when it rains. So they are seeing the motion of water, like the droplets, and they see that and they lick it up. If you guys follow again my animal Instagram, I shared a video of him drinking. I have tried a few different things for him. The dripper gets really messy and it's hard to know if it's dripping too much or too little and it's making a mess of the cage. So I got rid of that and I actually got this Exoterra like dripping plant thing. And I was using both drippers because I wasn't sure if he had found the plant dripper thing. But the other day when I shared it on Instagram, he had found it and he was drinking off of it. But it has like 3 leaves on it, like giant leaves. He comes up and he will put his mouth under there and drink because it drips and he can see it. Definitely don't make the mistake of putting a thing of water at the bottom of your chameleon's cage. Most likely they will not find it and they will die. So that's gotta be a horrible death to die from dehydration. Don't do that to your pet. Make sure you've got everything in place before you get them. You need to have all of the setup before you come home with the chameleon. It's not fair to them to have to wait for you to set it up. They could be very thirsty, you don't know. So always, always, always have your area set up perfectly for your pet before you bring them home. So the main staple for food for Panther chameleons are crickets. So I do crickets, he does like crickets. They also like silkworms, mealworms, superworms. I would say the majority of what he eats is crickets and superworms. They also like stick bugs, roaches, like dubia roaches, and horned worms. They're the green ones. Make sure you do not get those off your plants outside. That can actually, I've read that it can kill your reptiles. You definitely want to get them from a source that actually breeds them for that, so you know what they've ingested in case they have any pesticides or anything. They also like waxworms, and you also want to gut load your insects before you feed them. So that's feeding them like carrots and leafy greens and healthy stuff, so that when this guy ingests them, all of those nutrients are going to him. I'm gonna talk about one of the most confusing things about chameleons that I still find confusing and I'm still trying to navigate myself. Someone's question was, what would you say is one thing that you wish you would have known before you got a chameleon? Is the vitamins that they need. So I've done tons of research, and I wrote down what I just purchased recently actually as what I feel to be the best vitamin situation for them. It's always different too. If you put them out in the sun during the day, they don't need as much D3, and you can actually give your chameleon too many vitamins and minerals that they can't necessarily get rid of. It's kind of a touchy thing. I would almost talk to a vet about it, but I have read a bunch of websites, and this is kind of the common consensus, is mineral. I'll put all this in the description box below too, because some of these you can use for other reptiles too. Mineral is a calcium and mineral supplement that's phosphorus free, and it's got D3 in it. Then Herptovite, multivitamin, and Repashy Calcium Plus LOD. Those are all 3 supposedly supposed to be used, which I've been using a calcium plus and a multivitamin with D3. And I've read from different sources that the insect should be dusted 3 times a week. I've read that it should only be once a week. I've read that you should do all the 3 that I mentioned off one day, skip it, then do another a different day, skip it, do the other one the other day. So what I've been kind of going with is about 2 to 3 times a week with him. As he's gotten older, he doesn't eat as much and as often as he did when he was younger. When he was younger, he ate every single day. Now I feed him like every 2 days or every other day. He's been quite a picky eater recently, actually. It's been kind of making me nervous. So I just bought some horned worms for him and stuff, but I really keep an eye on what he's eating. And how I do it is I get on reptile feeder websites, they sell these like containers that are, you can even just use like a big gulp type of cup, something like that. And I put the vitamins in there, I sprinkle them in there, and then I empty the crickets into there, and then I shake and bake them, meaning I go like that and get them all coated. And then I have a little Glad Tupperware that I leave at the bottom of his cage that he can get to from a branch, like he can hang over it and eat from it. And I put them in there, and he comes down and eats as he pleases, and he knows exactly where I put them. I typically will put like a branch going down into that too, so the crickets can crawl out, so he can hunt like he would in the wild, where they're crawling around the cage, and he does his thing with his tongue, which is really cool. He's getting so aggro at me today. You wanted to be the star of the show, and now you are. Now you're being grumpy. Another common misconception is that panther chameleons need a buddy. They are solitary creatures, just like hamsters. They're very territorial in the wild, and you definitely do not want to put 2 panther chameleons together, which brings me to the story. I keep hearing all of these things that I did wrong with my chameleon, so I'm gonna tell you guys about this story. So I would say when I was about 17, 18 years old, YouTube wasn't really a thing. People didn't do YouTube. I got these 2, I wanna say they were veiled chameleons, 2 baby veiled chameleons. I got them from a pet store with my ex-boyfriend, and we put them in a glass aquarium. Okay, that was the first mistake. Well, actually the first mistake was getting 2 male chameleons and 2 chameleons in general and putting them together. That is a no-no. You do not put chameleons together. They are solitary. They want to be alone. So get that through your head if you're gonna get a chameleon. Very important. The other thing that I was told, I wasn't told to put them in a screen cage, and I didn't have a chameleon book, so I didn't know. I should have looked on the internet. I feel terrible now. Like, I felt terrible then too, but you just don't know what you don't know, you know? And I didn't realize, like, I just thought I could trust the guy at the pet store, but you can't. You freaking can't. So just be careful with that. Always, always do your own research. Don't trust what other people say. That was the first mistake. Second mistake was putting them in a glass enclosure. They need a lot of airflow. They're used to that in the wild. They need lots of airflow. They can get respiratory infections and die. You just want to give them as much airflow as possible. So a screen cage is always the answer for these guys, or a partial screen part glass. I also had no idea that chameleons drank from the leaves. I thought that if I put a thing of water at the bottom of the cage, just like the guy at the pet store told me, that they would be totally fine. I also had no idea that they needed to be in a very small cage when I originally got them. So all of these things I did not know, and I was told the opposite of what I was supposed to do. And ultimately that ended up in both of them dying. And I felt awful, and I still feel awful. If I had just done a little bit of research, I would have known all of these things and I could have saved them and they wouldn't have died a terrible death of being dehydrated. And I was like so confused when they passed away. I was like, I don't know. I did everything that the guy told me. And since then, and watching Taylor Nicole Dean and stuff, like I don't listen to people at pet stores anymore. I was literally just at the pet store the other day, and this guy, I don't know, I think I was just testing him or something in my head. I don't know what I was doing. There was a female Panther Chameleon, and she's the color of my bedspread, right? So I look up and I'm like, why does that chameleon not have any color? And the guy is like, oh, I don't know, you know, it'd probably come in soon. And I'm like, no, I think that's a female. Females are like a mauvey pink color and they stay that way forever, because she was big. She was like almost an adult. It just goes to show you, like, people at the pet stores don't really know what they're talking about all the time, and you gotta do your own research so you feel confident in what you're gonna do and the care that you're gonna provide, because it would just be terrible if the same thing that happened to my chameleons happened to one of yours. There's just no excuses for that, especially these days. There's people like me making videos about it on the internet. You can buy books. I'm also gonna leave some books in the description box here. Some books that you can buy and educate yourself on Panther chameleons. I think books are a great way to do that because then everything's in one place. Just chilling. You wanna make sure that you either have a light holder that holds lights above the cage so that they don't burn themselves, since they do like to crawl on the screen, or make sure you have a dome where the light bulb is sitting up further away, so that it's not sitting right on the screen where they'll really burn themselves. Like, you don't want them to burn themselves at all. Somebody had asked me if I can pet him. He doesn't really like to be pet. It's not really like, he'll deal with it every now and then. He's a little grumpy right now. Usually I can pet his head a little bit and his back a little bit, but typically you're just rubbing their bare skin, like their thin skin, against their bones, and they don't really like it. It doesn't feel very good. So I'll pet his little claws and stuff, but for the most part, I don't really pet him. I'll kiss his head a little bit. Typically, they just don't like to be pet, and a lot of them don't like to be held at all. So if that's how your Panther Chameleon is, you just have to respect that and let it go. Somebody asked how I tamed Zeppelin. I really just let him figure it out on his own. I didn't want to force him. I don't think that forcing reptiles to like hang out with you, or any animal for that sort, is necessarily a good idea. I pretty much just fed him, and like I moved from feeding him from a cup to feeding him with my hand. And eventually he realized that I'm just like a giant flesh tree that like feeds him treats that he likes. So eventually he started just crawling out of his cage onto my arm because he thought he was gonna get treats. It took a while, but we got there, and now like anytime I come near his cage, he clambers over to the door to try and like come out. So I pretty much handle him once a day at least, or I'll take him out and put him in the tree that I have in our living room for him. Someone asked me what the difference is, or if it's harder to care for a Panther Chameleon than a veiled chameleon. I wrote down a couple things that I found. I actually don't really know a whole lot about veiled chameleons because I never wanted to get one. Personally, I just always knew I wanted this guy. But what I did read is that they're actually found on the Arabian Peninsula in Yemen and Saudi Arabia. So they are from a more arid climate and environment. So it seems like their humidity is not gonna have to be kept quite the same. But as far as everything else that I read, it seems like everything's somewhat the same. I did read that they're slightly less friendly and can get more aggressive when you go to take them out of their cages and stuff, but that they're a bit more common and that can be a little less expensive. I purchased Zeppelin for $175 from a breeder here in Southern California in Orange County. I will link him and his Instagram down below in case you want to get one. He has been so helpful. He literally responds to me within 5 minutes anytime I have a question about Zeppelin or like anything I'm concerned with or any advice. He's always there. Whereas if you get an animal from a pet store, you don't know where that animal came from. You don't know if they care for their animals properly. And typically, you can't go in and rely on what they're gonna tell you. This guy is great. He's so awesome. So if you decide to get one from him, let me know. I would love to see pictures. It would be related to my little Zeppelin. It would be amazing. So a couple of your questions. Animal Girl 00 said, would dogs barking and loud noises scare the chameleon? Yes, it is very important to, what you doing, honey? It's very important to make sure that you have an area that is going to be free from cats, other animals, barking, etc. I completely keep my dogs out of my animal room. Panther chameleons and chameleons in general do get stressed out when it comes to loud noises and barking and whatnot. It's stressful to them just like it is to us, so definitely be aware of that. And then the same person asked, at what age do you think it would be appropriate to own a chameleon? I think that would be different for everybody. I would say that a very responsible child that's like 15 and above could understand and respect the animal, but I think it really depends on kid to kid, and you also have to be able to have the time and money to invest. The cage that you saw in this video cost me, I wanna say, around $300 to set up, between the lights, the wood, the plant, the cage, etc. Maybe even, yeah, I would say around 300. So it's not like they are cheap animals. No animals are really cheap. I mean, they're just not, especially exotic animals. So it is expensive. I would say that he probably eats about $25 to $30 worth of insects on a monthly basis, but their vitamin powders and all that stuff do add up. And of course you have to take care of the insects too, which I thought was gonna be a lot easier than it is. I can make a whole nother video about that, but caring for feeder insects is no walk in the park. I think it's kind of difficult personally. Whoa, yeah, screw this popsicle stand. He's out. Someone, living_paw said, are they poisonous? No. Chameleons are not poisonous. Look at his colors right now. No, chameleons are not poisonous. Hey, it's Max says, why is Zeppelin always so grouchy? He's not anymore. Look at him. He's letting us hold him. I'm talking loudly around him. He's doing good. He hasn't actually lunged at me and tried to like bite me for a couple months now. It's been good. How fast do they change their color? Lizzie Just Might says, or asks. They change it pretty damn quick. It can literally change within seconds. As you guys saw, like when I went to change my shirt, the moment I put him down on my bedspread, he started changing colors. It's really quick. That one girl says, why does he always look like he just got his wig snatched? That's just the shape of him head. Look at that precious little head. That's just the shape of it. Huh, honey bun? The hardest part about taking care of Zeppelin is everything. Making sure the humidity is where it should be, the heating, making sure he's eating. Recently, the hardest thing has been making sure that he's eating, because I've noticed that he's not been eating, and so I pull him out and I hand feed him a bit, and so I can see that he's actually eating. Someone said, how do you manage to get him out so easily? My little man is so upset whenever he is approached. It's just chameleon to chameleon, as I mentioned earlier. Like, maybe you just have a chameleon that does not want to be touched ever, and you just have to respect that. I mean, you coming near him is not gonna make it go away. It's not gonna make it better. It's just gonna make him more freaked out at you, because he's gonna remember that every time that hand comes near him, he gets stressed out. And so it's just kind of like a domino effect, and it doesn't really ever go away. I would say try and feed him from afar with a cup. And another thing about chameleons too is that they can tell when you're looking at them. So if you are trying to feed them and you're like this and you're staring right in their eyes, they see that as kind of a challenge almost, like, and they get a little nervous about it. It's like how you shouldn't do that with like big cats at the zoo and stuff. They say, well, my aunt always tells me, don't look them in the eyes. So what you can do with chameleons, and what I did, is when I would feed him like this, I would put the cup out here and I would look the other way and I would just let him do his thing. That was it. And now I can pretty much look at him when he's eating and he doesn't really care, but I definitely do recommend not looking at them or look at the food, because then they think that you're gonna go after it and they're like, okay, there's a sense of urgency here. I've got to eat this food before this crazy lady does. Look at your face, look. The other side, this side. Show him this side. This side is so beautiful and orange right now. Look at that. He's so pretty, Zeb. So with that being said, you can always try that. Try feeding them by hand and not looking at it, or not looking at them, or look at the food and in a cup, and then move to feeding him out of your hand while he's in his enclosure, so that he associates you coming to his cage with treats and fun and good stuff, good snacks. That should work. And if it doesn't, you have to be patient too. It takes time. If that doesn't work, your chameleon just doesn't want to be messed with, and you just have to respect that and leave him alone. I mean, as much as you might want to interact, that's not, you know, when I got him, I knew there was a chance that he may just be one of those chameleons that I saw on YouTube that just didn't want to come out of his cage, or he'd be one of those ones that is like clamoring to get out of his cage. Thankfully, he turned into the latter, but you just have to respect it if that's not what they want to do. You know, you can't force them to do things. You got to just leave them alone and let them live their best life. See, this is about as much petting as we do. This little spike and his little legs. Someone asked if they're active during the day or the night. Zeppelin and all other chameleons sleep during the night for the most part. As soon as the lights go off, he is out and down for the count and sleeping. He curls up his little tail, he turns a mint green, puffs himself up, and he's like a light peach color and a very minty light green color, and he closes his eyes and he is like out. Like one night we were watching a movie and he was in his little tree in the living room, and he had his tail curled up and his eyes closed, and he was those colors, and I was like, oh gosh, it's gonna be such a hassle to get him off this tree and get him into his cage. And I lightly moved the branch, because the slightest like movement, they'll wake up. This guy pretended to be asleep. I saw his eyeballs moving around in his sockets, and he was just totally pretending to be asleep and clutching onto that branch, and he's like, I'm not gonna, like pretend you're asleep, she'll go away and you can stay in your tree. Like, he did not want to come out of his tree, and it was hilarious. He's got such attitude, this little one. It's pretty much, you know, they sleep during the night, or he does, and he probably wakes up around 7 a.m. when his light goes on. All right, he's getting a little antsy. I'm gonna go ahead and put him away. Thank you guys for listening and making it this far in the video. I appreciate you caring about the care of Panther chameleons to sit here and listen to me. Hopefully it wasn't too boring. I felt like I couldn't like talk super loud and like be as like arm talky as I usually am and stuff, because I didn't want to freak him out even more. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next video. It's definitely not going to be next Monday, because I'm going to Mexico this week with my mom for her birthday, and I don't have time to pre-film something. So hopefully you enjoy this one, and we'll see you on my animal Instagram and my normal Instagram channel. Say bye, Zeppy. You gonna show him your butt instead? All right, cool. So he does whatever he wants. It's fine. Bye, guys. He's crawling down my back. Okay, is that what we're doing?